Hello and welcome to Inside the Women of Denver, where leaders share their successes, failures, and lessons learned on the journey to success. I'm your host, Kendall Covington, and I'm here with a very special guest today. Kendall Colman is founder and CEO of Colman Coaching, a company that provides executive coaching, elite business presentation and speech coaching, and high-performing team development. Kendall has worked with C-level executives, public officials, best-selling authors, and business people in nearly every industry. And she's a prominent figure in women's leadership, spearheading programs for the Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce and the Colorado Women's Bar Association. Kendall, what an honor to have you on our show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Let's start by learning a little bit more about you. I shared a few tidbits, but what's really important for people to know about what you do to serve the community?
Well, really it's going back to the beginning, I think. And imagine just for a second of being a single mom with a 2-year-old and really having a burning desire to leave her corporate job and start her own executive coaching business and help high-performing leaders, teams, business developers, business development owners, etc. And that was me 16 years ago. And so having that burning desire, that's what's I think most important about knowing me is that I'm always going to be searching for what's that burning desire in my client or in the person that I'm with.
Beautiful. I love that. So what's one of the things that you were most passionate about that drew you to this business? I mean, it's a very unique industry that you're in.
It is. Yeah, that's true. You know, I was touched by an early experience in my life where I had a mentor at the age of 15. I was a bit of a hellion. And definitely off track in my own way. I was a star athlete, if you were, in public, but I was doing a lot of things in private, if you will, that were really taking me off track. And I just was lost. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what my purpose was. I was surrounded by all brothers, and everybody was very high performing. They were all, you know, the best. And I was stuck in a life of comparison.
Oh, that trap.
Yeah.
That's definitely a trap.
It really was. And so my mother intervened on me and said, it's time for you to have a mentor and become a mentor. And she said, we need to channel this leadership energy you have. You keep showing up for things, but you kind of take people down the wrong path. Yeah. And I was a bit of a troublemaker. And so I channeled all of that into doing good things and to really finding and sourcing what made people their best and what made people like really step into their highest potential. And so I decided to make a career out of it.
I love that.
Yeah.
So what is the most important thing that you do for people? I mean, you do a lot of really unique things that serve your population. So what are some of the biggest things that transform them?
I think really learning how to be present and learning how to really know yourself and be true to yourself. And so that's really hard when you're a provider for many people and you're, let's say everybody's told you you're good at something and so I better do that because I don't necessarily. So I would say really taking time out to discover what do I really love to do? What is the thing that gets me out of bed every morning that I want to do that's my unique ability, that is my gift. And so I would say really helping people find that gift and how to express it authentically then.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So what's it like working with such high-level people? I mean, you said CEOs, public officials, people who've written best-selling books. What is that like? So many people probably wonder.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people, today we were with Aero Electronics all day. So I learned all about semiconductors and microchips. And did I walk in knowing that? Absolutely not. But I know what are those absolute fundamentals that have to be there when you're delivering a message either to your shareholders, to your teams, to your public, to the media. And so really helping people boil down what are those things that really help transform what you do so that it's practical for everyday viewers, people who are listening to the message.
I love that.
So it's exciting. Every day is different. Every day is different.
I bet.
Yeah. Yesterday we were with a petrochemical company all day, and so I didn't know some of those things. Obviously, I didn't know most of those things.
Yeah.
And yet, again, it's about how do you connect with your audience? How do you describe your leadership, your value in the community, and to your company, and to your employees and your shareholders in an inspiring, authentic way.
Yeah, I love some of the things that you talk about in terms of helping people to really learn to stand out for their real voice and being able to speak their brand.
Yeah.
And a lot of what you've said, I had somebody, one of my friends, his name is Scott. Scott, if you're watching, plug to you. He called out to me and said, you have to meet this woman, Kendall Colman. And he felt like you were just so in alignment with some of the things that we do with Women of Denver and helping women to stand out and learn how to brand themselves, find their authenticity, and really learn to get themselves out there in new and interesting ways. So I really appreciate that we have that in alignment. So talk about a little bit more about some of those values that you have.
Well, I really believe in authenticity and again, knowing yourself. And that's hard when you are so externally focused and in that world of comparison. Like, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that, versus really starting in a quiet place of contemplation. And that's where a coach can really come in, and a mentor or a thought partner. It doesn't have to be. Some people say, well, I can't afford a coach, or that's too outside of, I'm trying to start a business, so I don't really have a budget for that. But there's so many wonderful, smart women out there who will step in and be a thought partner to you and will hold you accountable. And I have a relationship like that with someone that every other week we're on task with each other, and we hold each other accountable, and we have homework in between, and it's all about, okay, let's keep pushing. Where else can we go with this? Let's keep pushing it up.
Yeah, speaking of mentors and accountability partners, tell me about some of the people that have been mentors and supporters in your life. How did you find those people and build those relationships, and what do they do to help support you?
Well, I firmly believe my earliest mentor told me right away. She said, stick with the winners.
Yeah.
And she said it's not a judgment, but she said there's a lot of ankle grabbers out there, people who will either try to hold you back, or who won't believe in your vision, or who will be the naysayers. And I even had a naysayer in my own family when I wanted to start my own business. And it was my dad, actually. And he said, you can't start your own business. You're a single mom, you're gonna have to travel. And that's just when I was learning the power of how to manifest what you wanted. And I said, Dad, I respectfully disagree, but not only am I not going to travel, but I'm going to stay within a 10-mile zip code, a 10-mile radius of my zip code.
Wow.
Because my coach had taught me how to really focusing on really what you do want, not on what you don't want. And that's where the power is. And so I then really stuck with that, and that was downtown, and we're in every building that I picked. I said, I don't know, the architecture looks really great. It looks like a great place to work. I want to be in those buildings, and now we're in every single one of those buildings.
That is amazing.
I know that's I don't always tell that story, but it was so important. And I remember having to make the conscious decision that I couldn't talk to my dad about my business for a while.
Yeah.
Because I really needed input of positivity and people who really believed in me. And I just, that's all I wanted. And so I stuck with people who I really, basically I wanted what they had.
Yeah.
I wanted the life they had. I wanted to be more like them. And then I just asked them. I just became very courageous and said, would you be a mentor? Would you be somebody that I meet with regularly? And
okay. You asked that. You said specifically, I want you to be my mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is powerful gumption you had.
I know, right? Yeah. Well, again, that earliest mentor also told me, to get comfortable with no.
Yeah.
And the more you're comfortable with rejection and people say no, then the bigger your ask.
Oh, that was actually one of the hardest struggles for me in learning to be a business owner, is dealing with rejection. Every time someone said no to me, I would take it home and I would say to my husband, Benny, someone told me no, I don't know what to do now. He'd say, well, go ask someone else.
Yeah.
Oh, well, of course, it is that simple when you're on the outside.
Right. Well, there's a great author, Byron Katie. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she said something great, and it's always stuck with me, that you can have anything you want as long as you're willing to ask, she says, 1 million people.
Yes.
And I keep staying in that. I can have it, I just have to ask more people.
Yeah, it really does work that way. I mean, even with sales, I know a lot of people, they struggle with building their business. They go, okay, well, I guess nobody wants my business. No one wants what I'm selling. But then you have to ask, did you ask enough people?
Yeah.
Maybe you just didn't ask enough people to find the right people who want what you're selling.
Yeah. So something we'll do with our clients, will always say every day you have to get a no. So you have to actually get a no. You don't. You have to keep asking for something so outrageous until you get a no that day.
Okay.
And it's so good because it keeps you in that asking for more, a little bit bolder, a little bit. Sometimes it's asking your coffee for free, or asking somebody to buy your lunch. Or I was with my daughter the other day at Safeway, and they said, "Do you want to round up?" And I said, well, only if I get to do an announcement over the loudspeaker. And my daughter was like, oh no, Mom.
Oh my
And she goes, okay, sure. But I thought, if I'm prepared for no, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Why are you asking that? And then you actually get it. Then it keeps you in that cycle of always, what else can I ask for?
Yeah. That's so powerful. And then that goes right into the presentation coaching that you do, and the fact that when you actually get in front of a crowd, I mean, that's a bold statement, and you're always asking for something.
Yep.
In the end, when you're doing your presentation, there's an ask, whether it's asking people to think differently or asking people to buy your product.
Yes.
That is definitely bold, and it's a big, you can expect to get some no's, but from that crowd, you can expect a lot of yeses.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the major power of getting in front of a crowd and being a speaker?
That's a great question. I think it's the most powerful way to build your business and build your brand, especially because people in the audience automatically will attribute you with positivity and with grace, and because you're doing something that most people won't do. And so right away, people will raise you to a higher level of credibility that, wow, okay, that's something that I'm not going to do, but they're doing it. And so I think one of your questions was around what's one goal you have. And we would love to touch, move, and inspire 1 million women to conquer stage fright and get to the microphone wherever the microphone is. If it's an introduction for somebody, if it's a question at an event, anything that makes that tingly physiological change in you that says, oh, I can't do it, but I've got to do it. And to because I think when women speak up, the world will change.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I recently sat through a presentation from Tererai Trent. I remember seeing her on Oprah, and then I was able to experience her presentation in person, and she said that when you empower women, you empower the world, because women are the ones bearing the children, raising the children, and empowering other people around them.
Yeah.
Definitely a powerful thing.
And women bring an incredible perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's not better, it's different.
Yes.
And I think that's the most important message when women are out, as we are, really promoting and trying to accelerate women in leadership positions around the world, is that the numbers really tell the story. Things are better as a result of it. When women are in equal numbers on boards, we see a 35% higher on return on equity. That's an incredible number. And those aren't things that people are making up. That's actual tangible evidence that women just bring a different perspective.
Yeah.
But we can't alter those things if we don't get to the microphone, if we don't stand up and take those risks one step at a time.
Absolutely. So what would you say are some of your favorite tips to share for people who want to get on stage, they want to get in front of a camera, they want to share their voice and share their brand? I mean, what are the best tips for them to get started and to know how to even go about getting started with doing that? Mm-hmm.
Well, first and foremost is overcoming our own physiological changes that occur as a result of speaking. We know that, and from everyone whoever just stands up, we could ask everybody here in the audience, if you came up and we asked people to stand up and speak, it's even a different physiological change than sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people will get stopped just at that level of fear that ensues because of the physiological changes, the heart rate changes, the blood pressure, the sweaty palms, right? And I'm feeling some of it. And to know, just like Bruce Springsteen, it's just time to go on. Those things will never necessarily dissipate, but to know that that's part of it, and that the way through that is through connection. So a lot of people, when we work with folks, they'll over prepare their content. And what we teach is really around just staying present with your audience, and that you have your outline of where you want to go, but stage fright dissipates when you can really master the connection with your audience.
Wow.
And so you stay with one person at a time, and then you realize, wow, I'm just having a conversation with Crystal. There could be 500 people behind you, but then all of a sudden that stage fright or that performance anxiety, whatever you want to call it, dissipates. And then you just realize, oh, if we were one-on-one and just having a coffee right now, I would not have any stage fright. I wouldn't have any changes. So that's where we always start with people.
Okay.
It's just getting the body to follow.
Yeah.
And I think most people think, oh, well, I'll be fine, I'll just wing it. And then all of a sudden they realize, oh my gosh, I did not prepare for this, and then the body takes over.
Yeah, all of a sudden they're hot.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Shaking the pits, And then what's fun is then once that relaxes, then you can have so much fun with content, and you can, what we teach is called level 3 speaking, where it's not about you anymore. It's really about your message, and then how to put that message into language that really lives inside the audience's world. So using powerful words like imagine, or there's many words that you can use that really have it live over in your audience's world versus this is, let me tell you what I know about this.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that is definitely body language. I feel like body language is one of the most important things to master. If you ever want to be successful, you ever want to be, well branded, you want anything that you want to be a great leader.
Yeah.
Body language.
Right.
Leadership is body language. I mean, if you have, closed off language, you have to master that. I was one of those people that, I close myself off all the time.
Women, sometimes will come forward.
Yes.
Because it's like we were told for some reason that this is more, that this is a better, like we shouldn't show our bodies.
Yes. So we close off and those kind of things, though, just mastering that and being able to stand in front of a crowd with that body language open and feeling comfortable and showing them that you are a leader.
Right.
I mean, that is so impactful.
It is, and unfortunately what happens in our audience's world is that if we don't master that, then we attribute negatively, perhaps credibility-wise, what are they not confident about what they're talking about, or all of these things come through just through the body language. And so it's really important that everybody realizes public speaking is a physiological experience and the body has to come with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're so successful and you do so many things. For people that want to follow in your footsteps and be a little more like you, what would they want to prioritize? How do you prioritize your life and create the life that you want?
Great question. I would say definitely, always keeping your vision in mind in terms of, and starting with that end in mind and working backwards. Where do I really want to be a year from now, 6 months from now, 3 months from now? And so what do I need? And then you really get that connection with what I call your future self. And that becomes really a strong conversation. So you're always in dialogue with, okay, what do I need to do today that's going to get me where I want to be in 3 months? And so, for example, one of our strategies is, okay, we want to be more visible by the end of, we've been a word of mouth company, and we really want to reach more women, honestly, and we reach a lot of men in leadership positions, but it's like we want to really reach more women all over. And so that's why we've been reaching out and doing more of this. Yeah. And really, but that started with the end in mind. So having a good strategy. I know you have a strategy coach, a consultant coming on to talk about what she does, but so starting with that and then working backwards and just staying in constant dialogue, and then really turn down everything else that's in the way, that is distractions. And like I have a little sticky that says, is this activity producing my highest result?
Okay.
And so a lot of
Yeah.
stuff falls away really quickly. Like I'm not on Facebook anymore, except if I'm
Oh.
posting something or
I know you shared something
maybe
of
just
mine.
a little
I
bit.
must-
Yeah,
yeah.
you guys, it's like
Thank you.
definitely. But you know, I realized this is not, how is this really adding? You know, I noticed just certain things that weren't adding as much. So
Yeah. I love that.
yeah.
Well, is there any one final lesson or big thought or anything you want people to know about you before we end this episode?
I would really end with the power of having someone in your life who sees a bigger version of yourself, and stay in dialogue with them, and so that you can bounce things off. For me, you know, it's my mother, it's my thought partner who's my accountability coach, and they know, they hold me to a higher task. And so those conversations aren't like my girlfriend conversations or things like that. They really are purposeful conversations that are really listening for something greater. And so having a couple people in your life that really are doing that for you and saying, is that really what you want to be doing, or who you want to be hanging out with? Or, boy, it sure sounds like, you know, 2 weeks ago you said you were committed to this, and I see you, you know, going skiing for 4 days.
Wow.
When you said you were going to be working, you know, that kind
Yeah,
of thing. It's
call
like,
you
oh,
out.
you're right. Okay. So.
Good. That sounds so valuable.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, if you do not have an accountability partner, you need to get one today, says Kendall.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. Pleasure
Oh,
to be
oh,
here.
absolutely. All right,
We
body
better
language.
Thank you.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for watching Inside the Women of Denver and spending time with me, Crystal Covington, and the lovely Kendall Colman. I will see you next time, and always remember that you deserve to be seen, heard, and known.